All right, so we are getting ready to interview Celeste Edmonds. She's the director of the Christmas Box House that will assist abused children, children who've been victim of trafficking, children who've been taken out of their homes, and she's going to share all about how we can assist and help these children actually have a normal Christmas. So if you have any questions, don't forget to call in live on air, 801-254-KBJA, apparently is what the numbers translate to, but 1640. Oh, hey, 1640 is the radio station. Just realized that. 801-254-1640. Call in with your questions. We'll have Celeste answer these questions for you guys, and you're going to be really excited because, you know, who better to help than these children who are under difficult circumstances for Christmas. This is the show, Utah Home Sweet Home. I am your host, Yoshi Shiraki, and our very special guest today is from the Christmas Box House, Celeste Edmonds, right?
That's correct.
Celeste Edmonds. Yeah, yeah. So thank you so much, Celeste, for joining me
Thanks
today.
for having me.
Yes. So last week we had Richard Paul Evans on, and he talked briefly about the Christmas Box. We kind of talked about his latest book, and we talked about a speech that I saw him give on going after your dreams, and then the last part of the show we talked about the Christmas Box, and I thought, man, we need more of that.
That this time of year, especially.
Exactly, especially this time of year. So you brought something in. I was just reading these statistics, and it shares that more than 9,900 children in Utah experienced abuse last year. That's a large number.
It is a large number.
And Richard was sharing how the number right now, not because like abuse is going away, but is lessened because of the coronavirus, because there is less exposure to teachers, because people are staying home, and so these children aren't being, I guess, recognized about being abused, right? And so that's a scary thing.
It's a scary thing. The state refers to them as referral sources.
Ah.
Right? So
Yes.
that's going to be schools,
Right.
church officials.
Yes.
Because, you know, a lot of people don't realize that in the 70s, an actual law for reporting abuse came out. It's surprising it took clear till the 70s, but
Wow.
it's illegal not to report child abuse now.
Wow.
It continues to be that way. It was kind of, you know, what happens in the home stays in the home.
Yes.
Where now that's you're supposed to disclose that. But to your point, I think because of COVID, those referral sources, as they refer to them, have been lost.
Yes.
So really, we don't know. We don't know how
Right.
many kiddos are not being reported.
Right.
And those families, honestly, that are on the verge of just needing services so their children won't get removed.
Yep.
You know, many of those had to be closed off as well.
Oh, right.
So it is kind of a touchy time for numbers.
Yeah.
But
Gosh,
we do
scary.
know on average, you know, we shelter and provide services for around 10,000 a year.
Wow.
So that won't change. Those numbers won't change for us.
Right.
In terms of how many children come into the homes and how many children we provide Christmas for and how many children are sex trafficked and, you know, protected at the home.
Wow.
So.
That's crazy. So it also states here that 125,000 children, the Christmas Box International has protected more than 125,000 children. That's enough to fill the Madison Square Garden more than 6 times. That's
I know when you think of that
crazy.
Scale, it is kind of mind blowing. It's like, wow,
Yes.
that's a lot of kids.
That's a lot of kids.
Yeah, and the number sounds impressive from like an organizational standpoint. We will
Right.
celebrate 25 years next year.
Wow.
The Christmas Box International.
Yes.
But when you think over 2 decades, I mean, those are real kids.
That's
They're not just numbers.
yeah.
Those are like kids with little feet and kids running down the hall and you
With
know what I mean?
feelings
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are real people.
Yes.
So it's actually kind of a sad number
right.
as well as it's great we have it
Right.
at the same time.
Right. It's great you've helped that many children. It's
Yeah.
sad that many children needed help.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Holy cow. Okay, so can you tell us what exactly is the Christmas Box House for those that are listening and are like, I've heard of that, but I don't even really know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy to.
Thanks.
So the name actually stemmed from the book, Richard Paul Evans' book, The Christmas Box. Many people, you know, aren't aware of that as well.
Yes.
So clear back in 1992, he wrote this little green paperback. It's
Right.
under 13,000 words. And it was really just a gift for friends and family. And then people started like handing it out and passing it around. And he was like, wow, this is creating an impact.
Yeah.
And it's about the loss of childhood through decisions, indirect or directly, that are made.
Got it.
And when he became a national bestseller, he and his wife, talked about it and decided they wanted to give some of that money back.
Wow.
And they didn't know how, but their father was a social worker. And so he asked him, and he said, I don't know. So we held this large conference and found out during that time that a shelter, emergency shelter services for abused and neglected children was very necessary. And so over the coming years, we opened 3 in Utah, Moab, Salt Lake, and Ogden.
Okay.
And really the premise is that we would take children that are being removed because of abuse or neglect, and we would provide a short-term place for them to come, be safe. All services could wrap under one roof with the public-private partnership with the community and the state and the county.
Yes.
And then the hope is always that less transitions are happening for that child. So let's say in the middle of the night, a police officer removes a child. It's 1:30 in the morning.
Right.
Not unheard of. More common than we think.
Yes.
Where are they going to take that child?
Yeah.
If there's not a Christmas box house, they're going to make a quick decision.
Oh.
They're calling, is there a family member that can take the child? They're looking for a foster home. Now imagine there's more than one child. There's siblings.
Oh my gosh.
And trying to kind of cram, can you take 3 children?
Right.
Can you take 4 children?
At
5?
1:30 in the morning.
I mean, Utah also has large families.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Considering.
Seriously.
And I was one of those children. I had 2 siblings, and we had to be separated for that reason. So
oh my gosh.
it's probably one of the most special things to me about the Christmas Box House is that
Got it.
sibling groups get to stay together, because honestly, it can be even more traumatic for siblings to be separated from each other
I can imagine.
than even from their parents.
Right.
I mean, you're a bond during that time of chaos.
Yes.
And to have that taken from you really shakes your stability.
Right.
And so it's pretty awesome to actually see sibling groups stay together.
No
At the
kidding.
Christmas Box House.
No kidding.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
That would have been really great.
Right, right. Because now you're afraid, you're alone.
Mhm.
At least if you're with your
Mhm.
siblings, you have each
Mhm.
other.
And when you're the oldest, like in my situation, you're also the parent.
Mm-hmm.
You're hiding siblings in closets, or you're keeping things quiet when there's, screaming in the
Right.
home or inappropriate people coming into the home. You become that protector.
Right.
And so all of a sudden you're like, I don't know if brother and sister are okay. I don't
Right.
know if where they're at, someone knows like, oh, that's her favorite Christmas song this time of year.
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
soothed her during chaos. Or, he really loved that little stuffed animal. Like, who knows that?
Right.
Nobody knows those
Nobody.
details. And
Yeah.
so it felt, for me, it was like losing children.
Right.
Much more than losing siblings.
Right,
I
right,
was
right.
like, no, who's going to do homework with her? You know what I mean? Who's going to walk her to
Exactly.
school? I'm thinking of all those like parental things you do.
Yep.
So it's pretty important.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an amazing organization. That is fantastic. So, how many children, just out of curiosity, can occupy one of these facilities at any given time?
Well, our Ogden and Salt Lake facilities are larger.
Okay.
So we could have upwards of 28 to 30 children if we had to.
Gotcha.
There's some rooms. Most children stay in rooms by themselves, but there's some based on sibling group needs or
Got it.
older children in care that actually have a child of their own, which is another interesting conversation. Can be in a room together. So if we
Got
were maxed out, if you will.
Yes.
But mostly, there's around 12 to 18
Gotcha.
on average that could be in those homes. The Moab facility, much smaller,
Okay.
obviously.
Sure.
It does serve all of Grand County. But
Okay.
it's also a unique kind of rural model where they can provide the community with things that the other homes can't, like crisis support
Yes.
for families that are kind of on the verge.
Got
or
it.
respite for foster families. I
Right.
need a break for just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
They can serve, the area in that capacity that it is a little bit harder for the larger facilities. So
Gotcha.
each one's pretty unique to its community.
Got it. Are you guys ever like at capacity and?
We have been.
Okay.
We're not all the time because they're, the best place for a child is home.
Sure.
So really, if a child's staying with us for a very 2 weeks to a month,
Yes.
you don't really max out, if you will,
Right.
with
right,
that
right.
short time frame because
Yeah.
the plan's not to keep them there
Right.
indefinitely.
Right.
It's, can they be reunited with their own mother and father if it's safe?
Right.
And there's an action plan that can happen, or do they go with another family members or a grandparent that
Got
is
it.
willing to step up?
Yeah.
Or do they go into foster care? And then even once they're in foster care, do they become adoptable? So there's really kind of a lot of equations that have to be considered.
Wow.
So that's kind of why, we wouldn't really reach max capacity.
Yes.
In terms of, can we not hold anymore?
Right.
That'd be really rare, because there are families in the community that we would prefer them to be in.
Got
if
it.
It's safe.
Gotcha. So is that normal that all of a sudden you need to find a family member and somebody's available to step up? Is that kind of?
Yeah, it's called kinship placement, and in a sense, that family member is becoming a resource as a foster home.
Oh, sorry. I meant to say family member to the family.
Yeah.
Oh, so is that typically what happens, like an uncle and grandparent?
Yeah.
Okay.
If there isn't a risk to the child because of the situation in which they're removed, a kinship, which is family, would be great.
Got it.
I had lots of uncles and aunts and cousins and stuff that we stayed with before we were technically removed. But once it became a decision that, this is really going to happen long term.
Got it.
They had big families of their own.
Sure.
And couldn't take all three of us.
Right.
It just wasn't economically, or space would allow for that. And so, they were put into a home, and then I was put into another home, and it just stayed that way.
Got it.
So.
Got it.
Yeah.
Pretty
crazy, huh?
No kidding. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Holy
all
cow.
the dynamics around.
No kidding.
Social services meets a private foundation that basically builds and donates a facility, and then there's still a relationship there. We as a 501c3 can fundraise and work with the community to bring additional resources that the state's not allowed to go out and do.
Got it.
They can't knock on doors and raise money, and we can do that, and we can help supplement needs.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Out of curiosity, how fast does that happen from a time a student comes into the Christmas box house? Do they end up, let's say, assuming they go to a foster care, do they end up in a foster home? Is that like the 2 weeks to 30 days?
That's right.
Gotcha.
And then a child can be in foster care for, short time or the rest of their young adult life.
Okay.
It kind of just depends on, sad statistic is if a child reaches the age of 4, their chances of being adopted drop 50%.
Holy cow.
Because understandably so.
Sure,
a lot of people want brand new.
Yeah.
They want a child that doesn't have a lot of quote unquote baggage.
Right.
A lot of history
right.
that a lot of times you don't even know about.
Right.
You don't really know what you're bringing into your home.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And so I understand that fear, but at the same time, those are a lot of kiddos that need long-term stability and eventually are going to go into society anyway.
Right.
So really, when you think about long-term versus short-term care, it would be wonderful to see more of those kids that could be adopted.
Yes.
But if not, they do stay in foster care and not the same home.
Got it.
I moved every 6 months until I was 16.
Oh, wow.
So I probably lived in 31, 32 cities by the time I was 16.
Holy cow.
Now I have a huge appreciation for world travel, so there's that. But at the same time, you never learn to like stabilize with anything. You kind of become like a gypsy child where all your stuff's in a garbage sack.
Right.
Now I can pick up and move quicker than anyone I know.
Yes.
But at the same time, I don't accumulate things. It's not all bad. But my adopted mom, she, bless her heart, she always has to remind me that, honey, your kids like to keep their stuff. Just because you don't like to keep anything doesn't mean they don't attach to something. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Okay, are there a couple stuffed animals you guys want to hang on to? I'm cleaning out every 6 months.
Right.
Too much stuff to keep in the house.
Right. Oh man. Okay, so we've talked about how you guys have helped 125,000 children fill, which is the capacity of Madison Square Garden 6 times. What does that look like on an annual basis? How many children do you typically assist a year?
About 10,000.
Holy cow, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
Wow.
It is a lot of kids.
10,000.
And that's not just children that stay at the Christmas Box House. That's other programs in the state.
Got it.
Kids that we can support, like holiday campaign, our Project Elf campaign that we have going on right now is a perfect example of that.
Gotcha.
We will, with the community support, provide up to 2,800 children Christmas.
Yes.
And those are not all 2,800 children that are staying in the Christmas Box House.
Gotcha.
Those are kids in foster care and staying with grandparents.
Oh,
and
wow.
they've just been identified as needing some additional support.
Yep.
So.
Wow.
It's an all-inclusive number.
Gotcha. So I'm reading some of these other statistics that we have here. The Christmas Box International is a volunteer magnet. Last year we drew more than 700 volunteers, providing nearly 5,000 hours of volunteer service. How does one volunteer for the Christmas Box House?
Yeah, and so that would have been, obviously that's 2019. 2020,
Okay,
we're still accumulating.
Yep.
But the reality is this year's going to look a little different.
Okay.
That's going to drop a tad.
Gotcha.
We still cannot have volunteers come in and work with the kids.
Oh, yes.
And, provide activities. Like, it's really cool because we'll have a group come in and put together like a barbecue for them. Or cool bikers will come in and let them like see their bikes, or there's just fun things that the community gets creative with.
Got
that
it.
we're not able to allow because of COVID. The kids to have that level of support, which is actually pretty sad considering
No kidding.
they can't do anything.
Right.
And now it's cold, and we have these pretty awesome playgrounds. I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty great. Very large space
Got
for
it.
the kids in the yard.
Yep.
But it's cold.
Yeah.
So we don't, or there's inversions. So there's definitely limitations because of COVID.
Yes.
And the staff is very amazing. They're very creative
Got
with
it.
what they can do internally, and there's classroom and constructive activities.
Yeah.
But up until it got cold, we could use volunteers outside, on a limited basis to help with like cleanup projects.
Right.
Or even in the facility with cleanup projects or helping with Project ELF. We're restricted on the number, of course, for social distancing.
Got it.
That we can have. So the numbers will drop for that
Gotcha.
reason this year, but we still can use volunteers.
Got it.
In those capacities, like helping at the house and doing different projects. It's just not at the scale we were able to do that before. Hopefully COVID restrictions with vaccinations coming out will loosen that a little, and we'll be able to get back to some sort of normalcy and offer the kids some activities.
Right. Got it. Okay.
But people do love to volunteer at the Christmas Box House.
That's awesome.
It is, once you're there,
Yes.
you're in. I mean, emotionally.
Oh, yeah.
You are.
I can imagine.
You're sold.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, what can I do to support? It's really hard to be there and not have that feeling
Yes.
of love and compassion. And the whole place was built based on volunteers and community support.
Oh,
so you know that. There's name recognition all over. There's a large tree in the vestibule donated by Modern Display. It just showers you with volunteer and community love. And so you naturally gravitate to, okay, I want to jump on board. That's fun.
Yeah.
So we do have some options. People
Got it.
can reach out to myself or go onto our website, and we'll figure something out.
Okay.
If somebody really wants to be involved.
Yeah. No, that's great. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, I want to talk about the holiday gifting program for people who want to be involved, because it's Christmas time. It's the 19th. I had to look at the calendar on the computer.
It's really almost Christmas.
It's almost Christmas, yes. So for those people out there who want to donate for Christmas presents and stuff, when we come back from commercial break, I'll ask Celeste to please kind of fill us in on that.
Okay.
Wonderful. All right, guys, stay tuned. K-Talk Radio, 1640 AM. This is the show Utah Home Sweet Home. I'm your host, Yoshi Shiraki. Today, our very special guest is Celeste Edmonds from the Christmas Box House. And Celeste, you had shared with me on a phone call that you guys have a partnership with the state of Utah. How does that work, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, it's actually a critical relationship. And I think, unfortunately, the state, which is in this situation the Division of Child and Family Services, Human Services, and the county, which is our Salt Lake partnership, Salt Lake County Youth Services, really get a bad rap at a very highly emotional time from people who are having their children removed.
Got it.
Understandably so.
Sure.
But there's a lot, often lash out at these type of organizations for, you're in my business, you're removing my children. When these are individual people that are doing a job that's very, very difficult.
Right.
Nobody wants to run around taking children out of people's homes. It's not a fun job to do.
Of course, yeah.
They're not, there's an interesting stat that, people that go through getting their master's in social work.
Yes.
So you think about the time and the money involved in that.
Right.
Will leave that field within 6 months of being in it.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's a hard job.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
No.
You need to go to a home, investigate that family.
Yeah.
You're basically accusing them of something you don't really know.
Right.
I mean, you're doing your job.
Yeah.
And so they really oftentimes get, and are very underfunded in all states.
Right.
By the legislature that also commands that they do that.
Yeah.
So it's a tough field to be in.
Right.
So I have so much admiration for those teams of people that, have to do a very hard job, the very best they can with the resources they're given.
Right.
But the children that are removed from their homes are mandated and taken in by the state and taken into state custody. So in a sense, they're basically wards of the state.
Got it.
So we, as an organization, a nonprofit organization, don't have control over those children.
Right.
We don't provide this, a social worker to go into the homes.
Yeah.
We don't provide direct services of care. Those are all contracts by the state with other partners in the community, like a Valley Mental Health.
Got it.
The dentist that comes once a week. There's an on-site dental facility at the Salt Lake Christmas Box House.
Gotcha.
That's a private partnership with somebody that has a family practice.
Wow.
Well child care visits. That's a partnership.
Yeah.
With doctors. Medication, you go on and on and on about
Right.
any services that the kids need from that level. Those are all partnerships with state, county, private companies.
Got it.
Then you kind of marry that with a 501c3, again, that can fundraise, that can go out and talk about the program a little more openly, that can get community support.
Yes.
That partnership, and then of course the community partnership.
Gotcha.
That really helps provide an influx of funding and resources where we can't get it elsewhere.
Right.
So it's really kind of about all these, you have government, you have private partnerships, you have 501c3 nonprofit, and you have community.
Right.
And really when we looked at other state models, this doesn't really work very well. It's quite complex.
Okay.
So the fact that we're entering 25 years of successful partnershiping
Wow.
is actually pretty remarkable.
No kidding.
I'm as proud of that as I am the number of children that have been served.
Right.
It is truly a unique partnership, and I think part of that is a respect has to come for what both sides offer.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you offer children, thank you for what you offer children, and we collectively come together with that united goal.
Got it.
Regardless of who comes in and out of those positions,
Yes.
the goals remain.
Yes.
And so you jump on board as part of that.
Gotcha. They would donate, or do they donate presents, or how can somebody donate so that these 2,800 children can have Christmas?
Good question. So when you go onto our website, which is the best way to learn more, we actually have a Project ELF section.
Gotcha.
And really the premise of giving with the Christmas Box House is really tapping into the way somebody wants to give.
Okay.
Right? So some people still like to go online, look at the wish list that is provided, and go buy items.
Got it.
And that's awesome. We
Gotcha.
want to collect those by the 23rd.
Okay.
Some people would like to participate in buying gift cards.
Okay.
And that really allows us an opportunity to give items to our teenagers who are the most difficult to get donations from. It's kind of back to the little kid thing.
Yes.
Everyone wants to go buy for the little kids.
Right.
It's cute. It's fun.
Yeah.
But we have, especially right now, a much larger teenage population. So we give them gift cards so they can buy. It's a little more complicated to buy for a teenager.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more picky.
Right.
And during Christmas, we want them to have exactly what they want. So the gift cards allow them an opportunity to buy what they want.
Yeah.
The other is definitely monetary. That is very helpful to us to be able to purchase items that are not donated.
Got it.
And some people are like, oh, gosh, I really want to give, but it's a hard time for me. You can share the message.
Right. That's a great idea.
You can give some social media love.
Yeah.
You can let friends and family know that are looking for something. You can share the message that we're looking for support. So really, there's a lot of ways that somebody can be involved, and we welcome all those ways.
Gotcha.
It's all important.
Yes. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And I love that you just said you could also share it, because, I've run into someone who's like, man, I had very little. He gave very little.
Mm-hmm.
To him, it was very little because he just didn't have a lot. Right. And he was like, I wish I could do so much more. And that's what you could do, is you could pass the word on to places that could use the help.
And for people that are, giving monetarily, I think it's really important to also remember that 88.1% of all the funds that we receive go to programs
Got
for
it.
the kids.
Got it.
So it's a high number we're very
Yes.
proud of. We've been really, able to maximize donations. If somebody literally gives us $1, we can create up to $7 worth of services.
Wow.
Because of the community support.
Right.
So it's this cool picture framed outside of my office that's a little boy when we first opened sent in a nickel.
Oh my gosh.
And he wrote with help. He
Yes.
wrote a letter that he wanted to give some of his blessings back to the children, so he was donating his allowance.
Oh,
And
adorable.
It's so sweet. I taped it to the letter and I had it framed.
Yeah.
And it sits outside my office. It's just like a reminder that every nickel really does matter.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Wow.
It does matter.
It does matter. Absolutely. I'm going to read a couple other statistics here. The Christmas Box International has been helping trafficked children and youth for more than 2 decades, providing shelter, schooling, and aftercare to help these youth live productive, happy lives. So that kind of goes into the next question I have, that these children that are at the Christmas Box House, do they still go to their, right now we're in COVID, so let's talk, if COVID was around, do they still go to their normal school, or are they being schooled at the Christmas Box House, or how does that work?
It's a little of both.
Okay.
So if it's safe for a child to go,
Mm-hmm.
there aren't concerns of abduction would be a perfect example.
Sure.
It's best for continuity of care for them
Got
to
it.
go to their own school. And now, to your point,
Yeah.
that's all about even if that school's open.
Oh,
So
sure.
right now, that might not even be an option.
Right.
But if it's safe, if it's open, the child is taken there and picked up every day.
Got
If
it.
not, there are classrooms right on site. There's a full-time teacher
Okay.
available that teaches all ages. At the Salt Lake House, we have a computer room that a great engineering company came in and remodeled and donated for us for teenagers
Wow.
to have supervised computer time.
Wow.
So there's definitely, that ongoing education option completely available to them. They do not miss a beat when it comes to that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so yeah, the education at least gets to continue for these kids, so they don't have to fall behind in school, which is a good thing. Okay, I'm going to read another one. The Christmas Box International served 8,900 youth who were victims of abuse, trafficking, neglect, or homelessness. Our shelters provide more than 11,966 days of care to at-risk children in Utah. That's a combined, this is the crazy part, that's a combined 32.7 years of care in the last 12 months.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
I think, wow, when you scale it,
Yes.
when you look at the numbers,
Yes.
it's like, wow, what an impact.
No kidding.
Yeah, and to be, the fact that everybody can be part of that,
Right.
you can easily say, I'm involved with the Christmas Box House in protecting this many children
Right.
every year for this many hours for this many years.
Yes.
It's very tangible.
Wow.
It's really about, we call it being a champion of children.
Yeah.
You're part of that club.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
You're in it.
Yes.
And a lot of people it's interesting, they're apologetic, like, oh, I could only donate $25.
Yeah.
I'm like, why would you be sorry? It's your money.
Right.
You earned it.
Right.
You chose to give it to us.
Yeah.
So as stewards of that,
Yeah.
it's really important that we maximize those dollars.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are astounding numbers. I know. It's
Astounding.
kind of hard to get your head around.
Seriously,
But yeah.
seriously, like going back to the Madison Square Garden, filling that up with 6 times with children. That's an amazing number. That's crazy. So something I'm a little probably uneducated, naive on is I keep reading here trafficked children. A buddy of mine's wife works in the hotel industry. He was sharing with me how they go through training to be able to recognize potential trafficking of children, going in and out of hotels. And he had shared with me that to his knowledge, sadly, Utah's high in children trafficking. Can you tell me a little bit about, are we one of the highest, or where are we?
Yeah, and I think that I serve on a state committee that looks at those numbers all the time, and all the groups, all the partners in the community that get together and talk about training and what we can do.
Yeah.
And what to me is most astounding is we actually have a partnership with a guy that lives in St. George, and he travels all around the world, literally never knows when he's going to leave. He's kind of one of those like superhero figures where he literally goes out and finds these children.
Wow.
He was trained as a private investigator, has a degree around, this kind of field.
Yeah.
And packs up, goes in, extracts, they call it.
Wow.
His stories are astounding. And he says the saddest thing is that not one perpetrator has ever gone to jail.
Whoa.
Ever.
Holy cow.
I know. I mean, talk about hard to get your brain around.
Oh my gosh.
So for him, it's about, and he works specifically with families
Yeah.
that reach out to him
Yeah.
and want reunification. So there's a place for that child to go back to. So
Got it.
that's him. That's one person
Yeah.
doing all that work. And the reality is, it's disheartening to think there's a lot of children that aren't in that situation where someone's looking for them.
Right.
And when you think of missing children, especially in foster care,
Right.
where they can just easily get lost in a system,
Yeah.
and you don't know where they are. I mean, when you think of at-risk children, the children we serve by far are the most at risk. They're very vulnerable. They're already in abusive situations,
Right.
or neglected. And so it's the numbers we don't know about. And I think people in general think, no, not in the U.S. When you think children being sex trafficked, you think, a lot of people think out of the country.
Sure.
Oh, that happens here, or that happens there. That doesn't happen in the United States.
Right.
We're just far too beyond, having that happen here.
Right.
And then you bring it home to Utah.
Right. Not here.
No, not in this lovely state of Utah.
Right.
Which is just so far from the truth.
Holy
it is
cow.
by far one of many states in
Yeah.
the United States that have a very high number of those children. So really, what can we do? It's going onto websites that help with prevention of this particular topic, and learning the skills to teach your children what would make them at risk.
Yeah.
Going into programs like the Christmas Box House and teaching the staff to recognize and look for those children.
Right.
So really it has a lot to do with prevention.
Yes.
And then once they're removed, how do we keep them safe?
Right.
Because there's a lot of old behaviors that are easy to go back into. It's not just about removing children, even from abuse and neglect.
Yeah.
It's about how do you help them and empower them once they're removed.
Right.
To have a successful life, to move forward, to learn the skill sets, the resiliency that they need.
Yeah.
To be productive.
Yes.
In their life, and that's pretty complicated.
Right.
Because you have a mindset of what you've been taught you're worth.
Right.
For a good percentage of your life already.
Right.
So kind of reprogramming the brain a little bit.
Seriously.
So there's a lot to that, and yes, Utah is not low on the list.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately,
he was telling me that, and I was blown away. I was like, wait, here? And he's like, yeah, here.
You're like, no, you're not.
No. Yeah. There's surely another Utah in another country you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, I wish.
Right.
In this situation.
So do you get a lot of infants, just out of curiosity, like newborn babies, infants probably under 1-2 years old?
Every once in a while, because again, they're easier to place, and in Salt Lake County we have a unique situation. They're called shelter homes, which are like a foster home. It's just they take the much younger, newborn, toddler kind of age, and so the ability to place those children is much easier.
Yes.
But every once in a while, someone will say, "There's a 2-month-old here." I don't know what it is about 2 months, but there's like always randomly a 2-month. And a few weeks ago we had 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
Old. And everybody wants to see the baby, including me. We all were running down there.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, nobody's hugging and kissing for safety reasons. Just want to fully disclose.
Yes.
But we want to see.
Right.
It's like almost hard to imagine.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, there's an infant.
Yeah.
Like it's brand new that hasn't even seen anything yet, and one of the staff will be swaddling the child and keeping them still and giving them comfort.
Right.
And they're pretty much attached to them, but it's 1 or 2 days, sometimes just even hours.
Gotcha.
And they're not there.
Wow.
It's very quick.
Gotcha.
They do come into the home.
Gotcha. And usually it's a family relative or something like that who will.
Yeah, or one of the shelter homes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But there's typically a more available placement.
I see.
Outside of the Christmas Box House for an infant.
Got it.
Quicker.
Gotcha. Okay. I'd once read a statistic that the human brain starts to retain memory at the age of 3. And from 2 and under, it can remember, like what we ate yesterday or what we had last week. But then by the time they're 5, they don't really remember 2 anymore. They can start to remember 3. Kind of an interesting article that I had read on memory. It was a memory thing, and it talked about how we just, we don't have it at a very young age, and then we lose it again at a very old age, and in between it's when it's the strongest. So children that are 3 and over, I have to imagine this is probably the most traumatizing because they're going to remember this stuff for quite some time. Mm-hmm. Are there things in place that I don't know if a psychiatrist is like the right word, or are there people in place to kind of help them going back to your mindset of belief of what you think you're worth, that teach them, hey, you're actually worth a lot more? Or is there even a program like that?
Well, I would say at the Christmas Box House, that's just part of staff training.
Okay.
There's a way that you talk to children. There's
Yes.
a way that you don't run up like you would with like your own children and just hug these kids. Boundaries are taught.
Got it.
So staff is taught, if a child wants to come up and get a hug,
Yeah.
there's a side hug.
Yeah.
There's a asking permission.
Oh.
Would you like me to give you a hug? I
Yeah.
mean, there's kind of a boundaries that,
Sure.
and even with my own children, it's like I've never forced them. We're not leaving until you give grandma or grandpa a hug.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's kind of a lot of that, which
Yeah.
seems simplistic.
Right.
But because of how I was raised,
Yeah.
I'm a little hypersensitive to it. And I'm
Sure.
like, if you're not in the mood to hug somebody, you don't have to hug somebody. You're
Right.
not being mean to them.
Right.
You're saying
right.
goodbye, have a good
Yeah.
day, have
Yeah.
manners.
Right.
But you don't have to run up and hug somebody. And I think part of it is, just teaching children and human beings in general that they have a right to those boundaries
Right.
in general.
Mm.
And what that means for them matters.
Right.
And it's important. And so our staff certainly have training in that.
Got it.
And, to your other question, there's therapists if the children need them. There's mental health therapy. Part of a social worker's role is to kind of identify and see what type of support each child needs. It's different for all of them.
Gotcha.
Some of them have been removed for something as, I wouldn't downplay it, but it could be a neglect was left at home. Mom, dad has to, be told that's not allowed, and
Right.
they probably are working 2 jobs.
Right.
And there's a short time when a child that shouldn't be home alone is home alone, and that has to be resolved. That's a different situation than, say, when Richard and Carrie Evans, the founders, were with their child at Primary Children's Hospital when this all first started in the first 4 years.
Right.
And we weren't able to raise any money. And Richard Evans was funding our operational
Wow.
side and the construction of the facility in
Holy
Salt
cow.
Lake, and it was just becoming burdensome, to say the least.
Yes.
He had taken out all the loans he could.
Yeah.
He'd given all the money he could, and he was just like, I am tapped out. I don't know what else I can do.
Wow.
And literally that night, their son,
Yeah.
who was only like 5 or 6 months at the time, had a fever of 104.
Oh my
and at
gosh.
some point it climbed to 105.
Whew.
And Carrie said, we have to take, our son Michael to Primary Children's.
Yeah.
So they're there, and by the time they're sitting in the waiting room, a police officer walks in with a 2-year-old child.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
about 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And Carrie said they looked at the child, and he was completely beat up.
Oh my gosh.
His face, there was blood. You could see like rips of his hair
Holy
that
cow.
had been pulled out of his head.
Wow.
So obviously we're talking one extreme to an
Yeah.
absolute next extreme. Right?
Yeah.
And Richard Evans stood up and he introduced himself. Hi, I'm Richard Evans. And the police officer said, I know who you are.
Yeah.
And Richard said, well, what are you going to do with this child?
Yeah.
And the police officer said, I don't know yet.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to start making calls and
Yes.
looking for my options. If there were a Christmas box house, this is where this child would go.
Got it.
And his wife's bawling at the time
Sure.
and says, open the shelter.
Oh
I don't care what it
my.
takes. Get the shelter open.
Wow.
So needless to say, Rick came in to our staff meeting the next morning and
Yeah.
had these T-shirts printed for us
Uh-huh.
that said failure is not an option.
Wow.
And everybody got handed one,
Wow.
and it was kind of moving forward. That was
Yeah.
that was the motto. Failure is just not an option. It doesn't matter what fundraising season looks like. It doesn't matter if there's COVID.
Yeah.
failure's just not an option with these kids. There
Right.
has to be a place for them. There has to be the facility, the staff. So it's very important.
Very important. Les, thank you so much for sharing all about what you guys do over at the Christmas Box House. That's
Thank you so
incredible.
much.
Yes. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and New Year's.
You as well.
Thank you. And for all of you out there listening, I hope each of you have a wonderful holiday season. Let me think. Do we have another show before New Year's? No, I think it's maybe one more show. Yeah, the 26th. So I will be back on the 26th before New Year's. So I won't wish you guys a happy New Year's just yet. But I do hope you all have a wonderful rest of the weekend.
Resulting in a
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show with Celeste Edmonds, director of the Christmas Box House. Man, those statistics are scary to hear of all of the children who need help due to being taken from their families, due to being in unsafe environments, to children who have been trafficked. Thank goodness the Christmas Box House exists for kids like this to be able to take this horrible experience that's happening in their life and minimize it, and make it as good of an experience as possible, if that can even be the case. Thank goodness that the Christmas Box, Richard Paul Evans created the Christmas Box House for these types of, unfortunate scenarios, that at least these children can have that safety, a sense of security at a place that, is obviously designed for this type of situation that a child will fall in. So we want to see if we can raise as much money as possible for these kids who also want to have a Christmas, but unfortunately are not at home. So if you've got the ability, please feel free to go to the Christmas Box House website. I think it's christmasboxhouse.com. Just Google it. And if you have the ability, it would be amazing if you could make a donation so that these children could have some normalcy for their Christmas, get some presents. And if you don't have the ability, at least share the website on your social media if you can, to promote it so that we can help these kids have the best Christmas they possibly can have under the circumstances. Hey, and also, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them down in the comment section below. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Okay, before we part ways, in case you have a dog or know someone else who does have a dog, I wanted to take a quick second to show you the Snap Leash. The Snap Leash can literally do so many things, and I'm going to share with you one of the many cool things that it can do. As you can see, the Snap Leash is designed with 2 swivel hooks, one on each end. This end has a cushion stitched into it to make it comfortable when walking your dog. Now, all you have to do is take this swivel hook, put it into this very first grommet, and now you've got your handle. Okay, so now let's imagine you're at the park and you want to secure your pet quickly, safely, and easily to a park bench, a tree, or a pole because you just want to sit down and relax. Well, all you need to do is take this swivel hook, remove it from the very first grommet, wrap this leash around any size tree or pole or park bench, and put it into the appropriate grommet. And now you have secured your pet quickly, safely, and easily. And when it's time to head home, another great feature about the Snap Leash is you can simply wrap it around your waist for hands-free walking. Lastly, if you ever accidentally forget your waist bags at home, these grommets make a great place to fasten the waist bags so you never leave home without them. And if you want to see all of the other cool things that the Snap Leash can do, then please just click on the link below and find out why so many others are falling in love with the Snap Leash.